Hello, I'm Tim Herr from Herr Display Vans, and the purpose of today's instructional video is to give you a walkthrough on the operation of a step van. It can be typically a Freightliner MT45, Freightliner MT55, or even a Ford F59. Most of these features and functions will be shared amongst all three of those units. So let's step up inside and we'll start with the 12 volt, 110 volt switch panel. When we enter the truck, you're going to find your 110 volt and 12 volt switch panel located above your driver's seat. This switch panel is broken into two different voltages. 12 volt on the left hand side of the white line and 110 volt on the right hand side of the white line. Typically, our circuits are going to be labeled in a very similar manner on each of the trucks. Usually starting out with overhead lights, shelf lights, power roof vent, and then there's spares that are listed here on this particular switch panel. Could be any number of other 12 volt optional functions. These items are all going to function whether the truck is running, not running, plugged in, and or not plugged in, as long as you have coach battery voltage, which is going to be indicated by the meter here above the sliding door on the right hand side when you first enter the vehicle. On the 110 volt side of the switch panel, which is on the right side of the white line, these items are going to function only when you are plugged into shore power on the outside of the unit. The double breaker AC main at the bottom of the switch panel is going to act as your AC main does in your home breaker panel. Without the AC main on, none of the features on the right hand side of the switch panel will work. Typically, we are going to have the power converter, which charges your coach batteries when you are parked at the top. The outlet switch, which is an internal wall outlet for the purpose of plugging in anything of any amperage draw over and above what the power inverter will produce. That is what you would use that outlet switch for. Typically on a step van, going to be located between the top shelf and the second shelf down on the driver's side of the truck. I'll point that out as we walk through the truck. Usually the last two features here are going to be used for air conditioning operation, whether you have a shore power air or, in the case of this truck, a generator with two roof airs. You'll see they are appropriately labeled air conditioning front, air conditioning rear. As we sit down at the driver's seat, you will notice several things will happen when I cycle the key on. Your instrument cluster is going to come up. In the case of an older truck, it may be the more definitive older style cluster that just has your typical gauges in it. Your mirror control is going to be here to the left hand side in the case of an MT55, where it has power heated mirrors. In the case of an MT45, those are going to be manual adjusted mirrors. Your steering column adjustment is going to be a foot pedal at the base of the steering column that will allow the wheel to be tilted, and in the case of the older trucks, telescoped also. Typical radio in a unit like this is going to be here in the center. The backup camera is also incorporated into that radio, and then below are going to be your standard temperature control functions for the dash. Behind the seat in a step van is going to be where your power converter is going to be located, and then typically below that your power inverter. Your power inverter takes 12 volts and makes it 110 volt for all of the black colored outlets throughout the truck. The power converter takes 110 volt and makes it 12 volts to charge the coach batteries when the vehicle is parked. Typical operation on any of the trucks we build is going to have the truck parked in the evening with the shore power plugged in, the AC main on, and the power converter switch on for the purpose of charging those batteries when the unit is parked. As we walk towards the back here, you're going to notice a number of black colored outlets in the desk area, above the desk area for your printer, between the top shelf and the second shelf down. As I made mention of, you've got an inverted outlet, and then this is where your white colored shore power outlet is going to be in our typical step van arrangement. As we move towards the rear, typically our coach batteries are going to be located underneath the bottom shelf. They're accessible from the top and from the front, as you see here. This vehicle is a 20-foot MT55, so it's going to have 6 coach batteries in it. Our typical 18-foot MT45 would have 4 coach batteries in it. All of these batteries need to be maintained periodically. We usually suggest when the unit is being serviced, check these batteries for water, make sure they are topped off, and then check the connections to make sure they are tight. Usually in this battery well area, we're going to have a large 200 amp fuse. That fuse serves to protect the circuit between the coach batteries and the rest of the unit. And then directly below that, you're going to typically see a breaker with a red button on it, and that's going to be the breaker for our liftgate operation. Relative to the AC main, or the 12-volt fuse here, the spare fuse is going to be located on the top of the cover. That way you would always have a spare fuse with you in the event of a failure out on the road. As we move through the vehicle, again, you'll notice some additional outlets here. This particular truck has an S-bar heater, but in the case of a propane heater, you would find the thermostat located in the same place. Then at the back of the truck, again, you have some additional outlets in the toolbox area. All of the toolbox area shelving is a removable shelving with 2 pins that hold this particular shelf in place. On the upper E-track shelves, the release of this lower release lever on each side of the bracket will allow this shelf to be removed from its position and or adjusted in its position. Now we're going to move to the outside of the truck to where we'll show the liftgate operation of the unit. First, we'll make a stop at the right front fender here, which is where typically our shore power location plug-in is going to be. This is a 15 amp to a 30 amp adapter with a twist connection on it. Can only go into this unit one way. So typically you would install it, twist it so it does not release, and then plug your shore power cord into the truck. We usually recommend a 10 to 12 gauge cord depending on the overall length from the outlet that you are plugging into to where you plug into the shore power cord. Operation of the gate is first going to require these release pins to be removed on either side of the gate. This is a 2,000 pound capacity cam closed gate, so it will handle most typical toolboxes. The plug-in on the liftgate remote is very typical of a trailer plug-in, can only go into the body one way. This particular gate is lowered by just simply pressing the down button. You will see the gate will let itself down and then cam itself down to the horizontal position. When unloading the gate, you want to let the gate go down until the cam arms pop up on the gate. Once the cam arms pop up on the gate, you are free to go ahead and raise the gate up to the threshold level of the gate assembly. This is where the gate will stop. It will not go any higher than this position. When you want to unload the liftgate extension itself, you're going to remove this linch pin, and then that will allow the extension to be flipped out so that the toolbox can be loaded and unloaded. This extension also features a cart stop, which by pressing this pin here, this is going to stand up. It's called typically a foot activated cart stop, which means when you go to place it back in its place, you're going to step on it with your foot and it will latch down. Reversing the process will put the extension back into place where the pin can be reinstalled and clipped so that the extension does not flap in the manner when you're going down the road. When you want to reload the gate, you're going to lower the gate down to a position to where the cam arms can be pushed back underneath the platform. This is simply done by putting your foot on the yellow lever here, pushing these down, raising the gate until they stick under the housing, and then continue to raise the gate until the platform goes its upright position. When back in the upright position, you're going to reinstall the stop pins. This purely prevents the gate from creeping downward and causing a problem when the truck is going down the road. Most typically, in the case of a step van, whether it be an MT45, Freightliner, or Ford application, your fuel fill will be on the left-hand side here in the rear of the truck. When we come back around to the front of the truck, the last item we're going to demonstrate will be the alarm system. Your truck typically will be provided with 2 alarm key fobs, as shown here. The operation is as follows. The lock button is going to arm the alarm and lock the deadbolt assembly that is located in the step well to the rear side of the opening. The unlock button is going to disarm the alarm and unlock the deadbolt assembly in the step well. The third channel button, by holding this 5 seconds, is going to lock the deadbolt but not arm the alarm in the event that you do not want to arm the truck when locking it. You will always have to hit the unlock button when you want to unlock the door and or disarm the system. That, in a nutshell, is the typical operation of one of our 18 or 20 or even 22-foot step vans. Again, should you have any questions, please don't hesitate to call. We can be reached at 708-755-7926. You can ask for myself or Chris Lundy in sales and service. Thank you again. We appreciate your business.